Hello, and welcome to a little video about the Unit 6 quiz review. For number 1 and 2, let's find out which of the given coordinates on the graph satisfy the inequality. Alright, so before I look at these points, let's take a look at this inequality. What I notice is we have a less than symbol, which means we have solutions only in one place, and that's the shaded area. We cannot have solutions that exist on the dashed line itself. So let's check out the options. Letter A is 0, 2. Let's graph 0, 2. 0, 2 is right here. That falls on the dashed line, so letter A doesn't work. Let's go for letter B, 5, 1. 5, 1 is right here. That's in the shaded area, so this is a solution. Letter C is negative 4, 6. Negative 4 up to 6. Well, that's not even in the shaded area, so absolutely not. Okay. Next we have letter D, 8, 9. So let's go to 8. And then all the way up to 9. Yep, this one works. And then lastly, let's go for letter E, negative 3 down to negative 12. Yeah, letter E works as well. Number 2. This inequality has a greater than or equal to symbol. What this tells us is that our solutions can land in the shaded area as well as on the solid line of the inequality. So now, with that in mind, let's check out the coordinates. Letter A is 1, negative 1. 1, negative 1 is right here. That's not even in the shaded area. Doesn't work. Letter B is 4, 0. 4, 0 means we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0 up. That lands directly, lands directly on a solid line. So letter B works. Good. Remember, we did have a point up here, was that letter A that landed on the line, but our line was dashed, so that didn't work. Here we landed on the solid line. That's allowed. That's part of our solutions. Letter C is 6, 3. So let's go to 6 and then up to 3. That works. Letter D is 0, 5. There's 0, 5. That's in the shaded area. And then we've got letter E, negative 2, 8. That works too. Lots of solutions, just one of them didn't work. On questions 1 through 2, how did you determine if the given coordinate of the points on the graph satisfy the inequality? We determined that the given coordinates satisfy the inequality by graphing and seeing if they fall on a solid line or in the shaded area. I'm going to read this out loud since I know my handwriting looks what it looks like. We determined that the given coordinates satisfy the inequality by graphing and seeing if they fall on a solid line or in the shaded area. Fantastic. Let's move on. And number 3, 4, and 5, we're going to graph these inequalities. The first step to graphing inequalities is to graph the y-intercept and then follow the slope for another point. In number 3, our y-intercept is positive 1. So I'm going to start by putting a dot on positive 1. My slope is 2, but remember that really means 2 over 1. Since it's positive, that means I'm going to go up 2 spaces, to the right 1 space. Now, 2 points is enough for a line. However, I'm going to continue this pattern. I don't have a nice ruler that fits on my screen to make a good line. So to make a straight line, I'm going to follow the pattern in both directions on my graph. Whoops. There we go. All right. Now that I have my, 2 points or more, the next step I need to take is to take a look at the symbol. If our symbol has a line underneath it, that means we have a solid line. So if we have a greater than or equal to, oops, come back. Oh no. There we go. So if we have something like greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, we get a solid line. If we have greater than or less than, we get a dashed line. Well, in this case, we've got a greater than. So we're going to have a dashed line. So that means I'm going to make little dashes instead of connecting it all the way through. Okay. Before finishing, we do need to shade. This is y is greater than. Greater than means we're going to be shading above the y-intercept. Sometimes I struggle with seeing where is this above I'm talking about. What I do is I put my pen or pencil or finger on the y-intercept, and then I draw an arrow straight up. There we go. So that means I'm going to be shading this part of the line. Now in this problem in particular, it was easy for me to see where above is. However, there are some inequalities that, to me, the graph looks like it's just left and right. And that's why I just stay in the habit of drawing the arrow either going up or down, even if I think it's obvious, because there's going to be times where it's not obvious to me. All right, there we go. Anything in the shaded area would be an answer to this inequality. We cannot use any of the points that make up this line, but we can as a solution. But we can use anything that's in that blue. Let's try number 4. All right, let's start with our y-intercept, which is -6. And then we're going to follow our slope, 1/3, which means up 1 to the right 3. And I'm going to follow that pattern a couple more times. And I am going to do that in the opposite direction too. All right. Now we need to decide how we're going to connect our line. We have a less than or equal to symbol, which means we are going to have a solid line connecting our dots. Whenever we have an inequality symbol that has a solid line underneath it, we connect our line or connect our points with a solid line. The way I imagine it is like this. When we graph regular y equals mx plus b lines, they're solid. And I imagine that this inequality symbol, the less than or equal to part, is borrowing a part of the equal sign underneath the symbol. So that part of the equal sign connects the dots. Right, that's the story I tell myself. If that helps you, awesome. If it doesn't, try to forget the past couple seconds. Anyways, we've got a y is less than or equal to. Less means the numbers are getting smaller. The numbers are getting smaller on the y-axis going downwards. So I'm going to put my pen on my y-intercept and I'm going to draw an arrow going down. So I'm going to shade everything below this line. Okay. In this inequality, we can use anything in that green shaded area as a solution, as well as any of the points that make up this line. And again, that's because of the or equal to, that part of that line, that part of the equal sign that is underneath our inequality symbol. Let's graph one more. Let's graph number 5. We're going to start by putting a point on positive 5. And then we're going to follow our slope by going down 2 and to the right 3. Okay, we're going to put a point there. I'm going to follow that pattern just like I like to. Down to, whoops, let's erase that. I think that point was in the wrong spot. Was it? Oh no, it was in the correct spot. Oh, Gumin. And then, of course, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Perfect. Now, let's decide on how we're going to connect our points. We have a greater than or equal to, which means we're going to connect our points with a solid line. We're just going to pretend that was a nice straight line. On my physical answer key, I promise, it's a gorgeous line because I used a ruler. Anyways, y is greater than or equal to. That means we're going to shade above the y-intercept because greater than means the numbers are getting larger. I'm going to put my pencil on my y-intercept, draw an arrow going up. Perfect. I'm going to be shading this part of the line. In this inequality, we can use anything that is in the shaded area as a solution, as well as any point that's on the line. All right, there's our 3 inequalities. Now let's practice going the opposite direction. What we're going to do now for problems 6 through 11 is write the inequality to represent the graph. Okay, so here we are. We're going to begin, like any equation or inequality in standard form, with a y. Next, I'm going to decide on the symbol. I'm going to decide on the symbol kind of in a backwards way of how I decided to shade. First, I take a look at the line. Is my line solid or dashed? In this case, I have a solid line. So I'm going to have a solid line underneath my symbol. Next, I need to decide if it's less or greater. So where is it shaded? I put my pencil on the y-intercept and I point an arrow towards the shaded area. My arrow is going down, so it's going to be less than. Perfect. Now I need to decide on my slope. I'm going to erase that arrow so that I can count my slope. It looks like I'm going down 2 spots, to the right 1, so -2 over 1. And then my y-intercept is right here, +6 plus 6. That's it. On this graph, the solutions can exist anywhere in the shaded area or on the solid line. All right, number 7. Let's start it the same way with a y. We have a solid line, which means we're going to have a solid line under our symbol. And which way is it shaded? I'm going to put my pencil on my y-intercept, and I'm going to point an arrow towards the shaded area. In this case, if I point my arrow up, it's in the shaded area, so y is greater than. Great, now let's count our slope. It looks like I'm going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the right 1. So 6 over 1 x. And my y-intercept is negative 6. Number 8. Let's start it with a y. In this graph, I have a dashed line, so my symbol will not have a line underneath it. To find out which way my symbol is pointing, if it's greater or less, I'm going to put my pencil on the y-intercept and draw an arrow towards the shaded area. In this case, it looks like we're going up. I'll redraw that line. Up. So y is greater than. Now let's count our slope. It looks like we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right 1. With an x. And the y-intercept is 5. Perfect. Ooh. And let's go to number 9. Let's start with a y. We have a solid line, which means I'm going to have a solid line underneath my symbol. Let's find out which way we point our inequality symbol by putting our pencil on the y-intercept and drawing an arrow towards the shaded area. I draw straight up to get to the shaded part, so y is greater than. Let's count my slope. It looks like this time we're going down. We're going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and going to the right 1, 2. So we have a negative 5 over 2x. And our y-intercept is negative 3. Number 10. Let's start with a y. This is a dashed line. We do not have a line underneath our symbol. Let's decide which way we point our symbol, our inequality symbol, by putting our pencil on the y-intercept and drawing an arrow towards the shaded area. It looks like we're shaded above the y-intercept, so we're going to have greater than. Now let's count our slope. It looks like I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 over 4x, and the y-intercept is negative 4. Okay, very last one, number 11. Let's start with y. This is a solid line, so our inequality symbol will also have a solid line. Let's decide whether it's greater or less by putting a pencil on our y-intercept and pointing an arrow towards the shaded part. It looks like this time my arrow's pointing down, so y is less than. Let's count our slope. It looks like I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and we're going to the right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we have 3 over 7 with an x next to it, and our y-intercept is negative 9. Okay, there we go. If you have any questions about this, about this topic, please let me know. Whoever is helping you out, let them know. They'll explain it to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of whatever day it is for you, and good luck on your quiz. Bye.